open for everybody else?
Should be. I haven't seen anybody else join though.
Okay. We are live and ready to go.
Uh, all right. So YouTube is back to not showing the chat. Let me refresh that. There's the chat.
You ever think YouTube's just trying to keep the relationship fresh?
Uh-oh, something went wrong when I tried to pop out the chat. There we go. Hello and ask questions. My usual greeting. Thank you for joining us for another episode of SEO Fight Club. A little bit of a late start this morning, but we finally got things rolling. Let me make sure I'm not missing participants. It looks like we have a skeleton crew today. I kind of got off to a late start, and so that's impacting how many people are here live. There was a story in SEO news, and let me refresh my memory because I wanted to talk about it. Oh, and now that website isn't coming up. Let's try that again. There we go. Oh yeah, yeah. So Google dropped the see more results from the local pack in search. So now if you're not top three in local, you're really not in local. And that is brutal. And it also comes on the heels of reports from the field that APIs are returning abnormally low amounts of local SEO search results. And what that is usually an indication of is an HTML update where Google is changing the features and formats of the HTML of the search engine result pages. And so when they change that formatting and layout and the underlying HTML, all the tools out there that parse that HTML, aka SEO tools and rank trackers, they all break. They all start saying there's only 4 results on the page. And then when you go and manually check, you're like, no, it's, business as usual. It's all the same. So if you're not in the 4 results that got parsed, your rank tracker is going, Mayday, Mayday, you've lost all your local rankings.
Yeah.
And so right now, you probably want to be a little bit skeptical of rank trackers, especially if they're saying you've lost all your rankings on all your keywords. You might want to check that because it might not be true. So just remember that it appears that Google is mucking around with the search result HTML, and that's going to break a lot of tools.
Yeah, now
What
the
do you
question is interesting because I saw some of this chatter in the groups yesterday about this. And the first thought in my head was, okay, some engineer at Google broke something because I don't see a reason why they would limit the results to 3 because, if in my area, the 3 plumbers that I was looking at, uh, and it looks like it's back, but, if they limited it to just 3, what if I don't like any of those 3 because, they have a bad reputation? Or I don't like any of them because, they've done shoddy work in the past. How do I find, number 4, 5, 6? Now I'm back to, going through organic, and local just died, in terms of its relevance to me, in terms of its ability to deliver good results and good options. So,
Yeah, and search also is fond of ranking the national franchises, and some of us like working with small local businesses. And so I would often pass a roto-rooter and look for a small local guy, or just just because I just kind of feel like the smaller businesses in my area, they kind of care more. you know
Yeah.
when you call ServPro or something, yeah, they're there in a hurry and they charge you a fortune. And I don't know, it's just hard to, you know I
And
guess
also
everybody has their own algorithm for what they want.
this
That's the truth of the matter.
this was on the heels, what, 2, 3 weeks back? The map pack disappeared entirely. There were no local results. So, they've got some updates probably going on in local, and the way they're implementing them is breaking the way they're displaying right now. That's
Yeah,
kind of my guess as to what's going on.
and it's interesting that you bring that up, because now we're talking about two different types of updates. So you have one type of update that is a meta blending update. So Google is a meta search engine. So if we go into Google and we type in DUI lawyer Los Angeles, all right, so we have ad search up here at the top. All right. Then we have uh, SGE, and then we have local. Then we have people also ask, and all of these sections, they're different search engines on different databases of data with different algorithms for inclusion and ranking. Then we get to some organic results, organic web search. And the positioning and proportionality of these different search engines being blended into a universal search page, that's a blending update. So when Google took the 10 organic web results and reduced it down to 8 and added in product search instead of those other two results, that's a meta blending update. They updated the meta blend of the different search engines. Now, when Google goes in and they change the HTML formatting of these so that they no longer parse the same way they did, that's an HTML update. They changed the HTML of the search engine results. And so, yeah, there are different kinds of updates in play, and it's really important for SEOs to understand all the different kinds of updates. So another kind is, what they typically, people typically think of as, the normal updates. Google tweaks the coefficients of the various ranking factors and things get sorted differently. So that's an algorithm update. And then we'll see other things, like there's a type of update that's a zoning update, and that's what parts of a web page are analyzed by the algorithm. And so, most famously, meta keywords is no longer included. You can't index a page for an imaginary keyword you put in the meta keywords tag. It's a no index zone. And so when Google made the change where a keyword in the meta keywords tag no longer became index, that was a zoning update. And the zoning updates, they also happen, and most SEOs are unaware of zoning changes on the pages. And so, yeah, it's good to understand that there are lots of different kinds of updates, and you kind of need to explore them and understand them to know how Google is changing.
Exactly. Now, since this stuff has come back, have you clicked on it? Because I haven't looked at local. Have you clicked on the more businesses to see if anything else changed? Yeah, this looks fairly standard.
Well, keep in mind that that's a different view than Google Maps. And Google Maps has been changing as well. And so if I say Seattle, or let's do best tacos Seattle. All right. So we see that the buttons over here changed and it applied a filter of 4+ stars. Now, last week, this was broken. If I said cheap tacos Seattle, it would still sort the results by price, but it wouldn't apply the button. And the button's working again. So, yeah, things have even been changing in map search too.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see how you can actually get in there and play and see these things changing. Here's something that a lot of local SEOs don't know. I know that I've taught it a lot for the past year, but I'll just point it out on the show. If I say karaoke Seattle, all right, and we click on this first one, and you see this section here on the card. This is
Hmm.
my favorite section in all of Google Maps for local SEO. Has these checks and X's here. You click on that, and it shows all these tags that you can tag throughout the system. And check it out. There is a tag for karaoke. All right. And this rabbit hole goes pretty deep, and I'll show that in a second here too. But keep in mind that once everybody figures out, oh, if I want to rank a pub for karaoke, I need to configure karaoke as something they offer in the profile. That creates a tie. Once everybody's tagging karaoke, how does Google rank them? And what we think, the leading theory, is that Google is looking for agreement. What is agreement? Well, if you claim to have karaoke in your profile, you ought to mention karaoke on your website. You ought to have event schema for your karaoke night. And what about if third parties, like right here, included you in a list of the best karaoke's in Seattle? That's a third party citation. Here it is in the search results. Google found it, parsed it, stored it, and presented it in this search. What are the odds that they're scoring with it? Very small leap of faith on that. And check this out. Here's another form of agreement. What if people talk about how great your karaoke night is in your reviews? It's another form of agreement. And is Google actually looking for schema on web pages in map search? This is kind of hard to figure out because Google doesn't present it often. But if we're looking for any evidence that schema from the web page is getting included into these results, let's look for uh, in stock frying pan Seattle. See if we can find one. These are the hardest ones to tease out of Google. Google's gonna make me look bad today.
Yeah, you just change from Seattle to like Los Angeles. You're more likely to encounter.
Yeah, or let me take in stock out of the front and put it back here.
There it is.
Schema presentation. in map search. That's really hard to find and trigger. But Google, once again, Google explored the website, found the schema, parsed the schema, stored the schema. Look at that, updated today, presented the schema. What are the odds that they are scoring with it too? So agreement of things that you claim. So, and it's bilateral. If you claim something on the website, you need to configure it in the profile, you need to represent it in the schema, and you need to get people talking about it from other sources. And so it's not just, one direction. It's, agreement needs to be everywhere to win these things. And then let's see how far down the rabbit hole we can go real quick here. So if I say quick lunch, Seattle. Oh, we got Charles coming in. All right, so quick lunch, Seattle. I click on it. I go to our favorite zone. Check this out. Fast service. All right. Quick bite. It's configurable. All right. Well, Ted, how effective can this actually be? Well, let's do quick lunch, beer, dogs allowed. All right. Fast service, beer, dogs allowed. All right. So a lot of people don't talk about this in local, but it's important that you understand that a lot of the map search algorithm is hidden in plain sight. And when we talk about completeness of your profile, we're talking about making sure you have everything appropriate configured here. And let me tell you a small anecdote about how situationally powerful these little tags can be. They're not always powerful, but they're sometimes abnormally powerful. I was driving to a wedding in Portland, and my wife wanted coffee. And so I said, sure, put in Starbucks with the drive through into Google Maps. We'll navigate to the next one. We get off the interstate. We were driving south on I-5 and get to the Starbucks. And sure enough, they lied on their profile. They lied. No drive through. Store owner was in that day. I asked him about it. Said, "Hey, why do you guys lie on your business profile about your having a drive through?" Store owner apologized profusely and said, "We're just so close to the interstate that when we uncheck that box, it impacts about 80% of the business we get on a given day." So if you're that close to I-5 and you don't have a drive-through, not checking that box murders your people walking in the door. And so they have no choice. It's like they can either lie on the business profile or lose 80% of their business. That would probably kill the store. And so just know that if your client is a bar and they have a karaoke night and their karaoke night is dead and you haven't configured this properly in maps, that might be part of the problem. But yeah, algorithms and updates, they're happening. So any thoughts on that stuff?
No, I mean you're right about that. Those all those little things help pick up, some of the specialized services, some of the long tails, or the combination, like the one that you had with the there with the I want beer and dogs allowed.
Yeah, and one that's interesting that I'm still trying to study, so the cutting edge of this type of exploration, best gas station. So you would see something like that and you would assume that it would sort based on four star reviews.
Mhm.
And now it's doing it today. Holy cow. See what happened historically for like the past 4 months, it wouldn't do that. Let me see if I can trick it because it's sometimes location specific. All right, so this is Seattle. Now I'm designating Seattle. Boom.
Mhm.
All right. And so there are contexts in which Google knows that no human being is going to drive all the way across the city. So from over here to over here is close to an hour to get through all of the bridges and traffic lights. No human being is going to drive an hour to go to the best gas station in Seattle. But if your town that you're servicing is sufficiently small and the drive across town is only 5 minutes, then people might care about driving to the best gas station in town. And so just note that to know if these forces are in play, you actually have to get into map search and play around and see what's applicable for your keyword in that area, and it will behave differently in different locations.
Yeah.
I see the price of regular in there, and I'm wondering if that is I never noticed that before in maps, and I'm wondering if that plays as a factor, especially
Uh,
like yeah, cheap or best price or
yeah,
something like that.
I wonder if that's schema, or I wonder if they've integrated with a third party data provider. And
Mhm.
that's really interesting.
I think the big takeaway, Ted, I mean, you nailed it. If you are in a niche, I don't care what the niche is, go into the SERPs, mobile and desktop, and mess around. What do your competitors look like? What are you seeing? What's Google doing? So many people just they do their key, and I've done it, I've been guilty of it, do the keyword research and then bam, start optimizing the page. And like, wait a minute, what's on the SERP? What does the SERP look like? What kind of results are showing up?
Yep. And before I forget, let me mention our sponsor, Magic PR. They're helping us test this year in press releases, and so we are thankful for that. I also want to mention it is last chance time if you want to attend SEO at the Beach, SEOatthebeach.com. It's really down to the wire if you want to get in on this great event. And I'd also like to remind you, I'll try to have Terry Samuels on the show here in the next week or so for SEO spring training coming up in early April. So those are the two big events right now. And Lee, it's underway, so you're not taking on new people this go around, but you want to tell people how it's going with the training group so far?
Yeah, we're having a good time. We already have a test site out there. We launched it last week. It's already ranking this week. It's early, so the rankings aren't page one yet. But it's a good group. We're having a lot of fun. So if people are thinking about this, we will do another one of these in May. So you got to
All
wait.
right. So, so what you're just describing there, correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
is that in addition to people ranking their own projects each week, you guys are collaboratively ranking a new website as a group.
Yeah, I put together a website and we utilize it to test different strategies on, so people can go crazy and destroy my domain rather than their own. So if they want to test the craziest stuff, they have the ability to do that. So I
Awesome.
sac I sacrifice a new domain to the Google gods every training.
Awesome. So I think what we ought to do is kind of track progress here, like every couple of weeks, check in with how the collaborative website is ranking.
You could do it. It just depends on what they decide, whether they decide to actually go for rankings or, swing for the fences and see what happens. Because sometimes you do that and you end up, moving up. Sometimes you end up moving yourself out of the SERP.
Oh, so you're letting the trainees
Oh
call the
yeah.
shots on the tuning?
Yes.
Nice. I
They,
like
they
it.
get to do the things they want to do to different pages and see what happens. So
So
sometimes,
it's a fear-free environment to go extreme if they want to.
oh yeah, if you want to go and put 10,000 words on a page or something like that, you can do it. But the rankings are the rankings, so you get to see how your pages are, and then we also do a little bit of friendly rivalry in there as well. So
Yeah, what I call that is a safe place to fail. You can test out SEO ideas, see what's working, and not have the fear of like a business owner calling you up and screaming at you for testing on their website.
no, it's fun because we have different groups. We'll break out into different random groups each week, and each group will work on a particular page, and then I fire all those SEO agencies, and then the next week they all reform as different groups, and we see what happens then. So, but it is very much a safe place to fail.
So I figured since we started down the path of field observations, that I would take a quick look. So bolded exact match, variations, criminal defense,
Mm-hmm.
DUI, DUI lawyer, Los Angeles, DUI attorney, criminal defense lawyer. All right, so this is still holding up. So it's not just highlighting DUI always. So when it's a DUI defense, it's off topic, but when it's a DUI lawyer, it's on topic.
Mm-hmm.
But DUI and criminal defense law firm, it includes DUI and criminal defense.
Interesting how they
DWI.
interesting how they do the they see a difference between defense and criminal defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, defense here didn't work.
But criminal defense, there you go, criminal defense lawyers.
Yeah, all caps, still in effect. You know, it's interesting. What I'm not seeing, oops, what I'm not seeing is the aggregate rating exploits.
No, there's one, 4.2.
There's one, but it's not the exploit. The exploit ones are always 5-star rating, 1 vote.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one. So yeah, that's still in play. It's just not at the top.
Prevalent. Yeah.
This is interesting. I bet this is an H2 that's numbered. That's my theory.
Yeah.
Let's test that theory.
I don't think I've ever seen thumbtack before. What is
Yeah, they're a little unusual to be in this.
Oh, no, it's a div. Interesting. They pulled the numbered heading treatment out of a div. Does that appear in multiple places? No. All right, so my prediction was wrong. It looks like that numbered heading treatment can work from a div.
Yeah, I wasn't seeing a whole lot that was different, new features in that one. You want to try games, your other favorite?
Yeah, I want to check one more thing here. All right, changing it up. All right, Crazy Games still on top. Page visually, almost all images. Oh, typo. So a page that visually has no text, exact match 2,600 times, punished all the way to number one. And the reason I think they can get away with that, and many other businesses can too, is they're not misleading searchers. So, yes, it's aggressively tuned. What can you do when your web page is mostly images, like a photo gallery or video game tiles? Obviously, you're not going to have a skyscraper article on games. So this is how they compete. And, I think Google probably gives websites in this situation a pass when their content is good, desirable, and they don't mislead searchers. Then you can be in the arms race. Is it really an arms race? Well, let's look around. Let's look at number two. So number two, kind of the same thing. A little bit of safety text.
Yep. And some ads on the side, which adds a little bit of text.
So we view source. 1,331 exact matches on a page that visually has no text. Um, now, the most important question in SEO is if they can do it, why can't I? And it turns out that question isn't a blank check for you to do anything you want. There's a reason why they can do it and you can't. And we think that reason is factor diversity. They have a broad selection of ranking factors that tells Google that they're trustworthy for this keyword. If you go in doing three factors, if you're a three factor Andy, what ends up happening is the algorithm catches on. So you tune the page and your rankings go up a little bit. You tune it some more, it goes up a little more. You tune it again, and the algorithm says, hey, wait a second. You're just doing the same things over and over again. I'm not going to give you any more credit for those same things. And then if you take it too far, then the algorithm says, I'm just not going to give you score for those things you're exploiting. And so what you need to do is you need to diversify. You can't be a three-trick Andy. You need to have all of your signals. And then Google's like, okay, they have all the signals, let them through. And so if you find that your SEO stops working, my SEO was working great, it stopped working. Um, then odds are you need to diversify. You need to do all the things you've been neglecting.
So
And
Ted, well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, and I was going to say this is the most common problem in SEO, so much so that agencies hear it coming in the door. How many times have you heard something like this? Yeah, we used to have an SEO. It was going great for a while, then it kind of all stopped working, so we had to let them go, and now we're here talking to you. It's literally this diversity algorithm that says, hey, you're lacking signal diversity, So the 3 tricks you know don't help your score anymore. And so when you get those sites unstuck, imagine the last week that SEO that got fired, what that SEO did. And I know you can relate. I know everybody has that yucky feeling in their gut right now because we've all been through it. You know what happened that last week before that SEO got fired. They threw everything they knew into that page to get it to move an inch, and it didn't budge, and they got fired. Now, when you know how to get that page unstuck, what do you think happens? It shoots to the moon. And it's because that SEO wasn't bad. The SEO he was doing wasn't bad SEO. It was incomplete. And when you make it complete, then you get full credit for it and it shoots to the moon. And so oftentimes, you know, when we hear that story coming in the door, it's like, oh, we need to diversify first and then rank them higher second. Versus a new page or a new site, we need to rank it first. Or as Lee would do it all at once.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Charles?
So I was going to kind of ask the question for the viewers out there. So when you say factor diversity, now I know for myself, especially, a lot of people think, oh, you know, someone's a one trick, you know, a 3-trick Johnny, just throw links at the page. And that's a factor. A lot of times people think, oh, I'm just going to throw links at the page. When you say factors, are you referring to, let's just say, for example, title tag, H1 tag? Are you seeing those separate factors, or are you seeing just keyword optimization as a factor? Like, not everybody I know has Quora, and if you guys out there don't have Quora, get it. Unsolicited plug, but there are lots of factors in there. So what do you consider when you think factors?
Well, here's how a lack of factor diversity happens with an SEO. The SEO says to himself, backlinks are expensive and slow and hard to get, so I'm just not going to do those right now. And they neglect a whole category of healthy ranking signal. Or the SEO says, you know, I've never ranked a page with schema, so how important could schema be? So I'm just not going to do schema, and it's technical and kind of hard. So there's a second whole category of ranking signal they're not using. And then they say, oh, well, you know, my content is great and my SEO is perfect. I haven't measured it scientifically, but I know my SEO is good, so that's not the problem. That's the third way you get these massive gaps in what you're doing. And I can tell right now, most of our audience religiously avoids H4 to H6s. You know what that is? Those are factors you're neglecting. If you had data, what you would see in that data is that periodically, from keyword to keyword and from time to time, H4s are statistically stronger than H1s. And you don't use them. Yeah, I mean, there's just a ton of stuff that people neglect. And so it might be that you're neglecting your anchor text, you're neglecting your internal linking, you're neglecting your keyword density because it's hard to tune for. You're neglecting, here's a very abstract one that blows people's shit up. You're neglecting having narrow topical focus. You drift topically and your rankings go to shit, and you need to keep each page focused on that best opportunity. What do you think about these diversity signals?
Yeah, they're there. I mean, but it all stems because, you know, as SES, we have the favorite things that we like to do, the things that we're good at, things we're comfortable with. So, you know, I focus on backlinks. I never bother with the on page, or I focus on the on page. I never bother with the backlinks, or, you know, I've never needed anything other than, you know, insert factor here to rank a page. but it doesn't seem to be working right now. But we keep trying to, push that a little further. If keyword density is your thing, it's like maybe I just put a few more keywords on the page, or I'll put them in a few different places or whatever. And then, you get diminishing and then no returns, from those things. And that's generally what you see when you know that you're missing other factors, is that what you're doing, which has worked historically, isn't working now.
Yeah, addicting games for this keyword. This used to be the one we'd track all the time, remember? And they used to have values uh ranging from 3,000, and at one point in their history they were almost at 6,000 exact matches on a single page that visually had no text. And we talked about them on the show and they got nervous. Sorry, guys. But Google never did anything, but they got nervous and they detuned their page.
Yeah,
So
so
now,
let's do something here real quick. Change that game to games.com. So let's see how much of the 757 is there.
so
So they
almost
still have,
half. Yeah.
yeah, almost half. So they still have 400 game that's not part of the URL.
But
So
here's the thing, when they used to have the number in the 3 to 6,000 range, they were number one. So here they are, they've fallen quite far by not playing the arms race.
yeah.
Well, that goes back to the whole Google's going to come and punish, the Google boogeyman. Google knows all and sees all, and it's going to come and punish me
Yeah.
because I'm doing something wrong. Whereas there's nothing wrong with putting your brand in an alt tag or a title
Well,
tag or
and I think these guys have the best defense. Like they can say to Google, look, we're in an arms race. Our content is visually graphics. So we're not going to win with the skyscraper article for this keyword. But searchers love our content. We are delivering what they want and they like it, and you know it. You see that in the data. But I am in an arms race with my competitors. And so, I mean, that's why Google isn't throwing the ban hammer down on these guys, because once you understand what it takes to rank, it's an arms race, right? And we actually measure this. We have color coding that tells you, if you're in an arms race with very sophisticated SEOs, or are you in aggressive competition with very, simplistic SEOs, or are you the only SEO in the room for a particular keyword? We can measure and determine those things because we can see if all these competitors are using nuanced, sophisticated factors, or are they three-trick Andes? And are they aggressively tuning those, or is there no SEO in play? Like, we can detect that, report on it, and talk about the keyword in terms of there's very unsophisticated light competition here. And that's, part of the color coding in the roadmap. If you use Cora, that's what that's for. It's to tell you about the nature of that situation. And it's important to understand that because if you're the only SEO in the room, you can win the keyword and walk away, and 6 months later, you'll probably still be on top or near the top. But if it's a keyword where it's very sophisticated, very nuanced factors in play, very aggressively tuned, there are multiple SEOs and they're watching. And when you adapt, they adapt. And so when you're in those arms races, you can't win a keyword and walk away. And you have to explain to the client that, hey, this keyword is an arms race keyword. We can win it, but you're going to have to maintain it over time to keep it. Because if we win it and walk away, you won't be there in 6 months. And so it's important to know these things up front and to manage those expectations. Because if you don't, that'll get you in trouble.
So let's do this, Ted. Let's go and do a sterling silver amethyst bracelet, because that's
Ooh,
more
yeah, yeah.
e-com. Because I've noticed some things are,
Yep. Damn it, Ted. Typing in front of the public.
if you're interviewing to be my VA, it's not going well, sir. It's not going
Yeah, yeah, no
well.
kidding. All right, so first let's look at the Google ridiculousness of this. All right. Think yeah, so above the fold is SGE Merchant Center. What the heck is this? Shopping results?
Yeah, because you've
And
got all
then
those filters on the side.
yeah, so it's all ads. So we got ads, AI ads, and ads, and then organic results. Let me zoom in more now that we're below the crazy part.
A little bit, yeah.
This is new to me.
Yeah.
So it's soliciting a Google review. So it knows I visited this because I recently did an SEO audit for an online jeweler. And so in the course of that audit, I went and looked at about 300 of their competitors because that's what you do. So when people say, Ted, do you look at Amazon? Do you look at small boutiques? What websites do you look at? I say, yes, you look at all of them. And the crazy thing is, the reason you look at all of them is you never know where genius will strike. And I saw a feature on one of these jewelry stores, and it was way out on page 6 or 7. The page didn't rank, but they had this marketing feature on that site that was pure gold. It was genius. As far as like online retail plays, it is the most brilliant thing I have seen in online retail ever. And it was hidden out on a competitor on page 7. So, which sites do you look at? You look at all of them because you never know where genius will strike. Um, all right, so schema. If you're not
Hmm.
doing schema, it's not new, but I'm just pointing it out. This is all schema. You don't think schema is important? Google explored, found it, parsed it, stored it, and is now presenting it. The leap of faith I'm asking you to take is 1 inch further that they might be scoring with it too. This is cool. I like this a lot. Uh, this type of stuff can win clicks because people don't have to trust you then. They're like, oh, I've never done business with you. I'm scared to give you my info. Oh, I don't have to trust you. That's a good one. I like that they have a return policy here too. Man, these win clicks. This right here is awesome click winning. All right.
I didn't see any content. It's all looks like product. Even when you get down to the organic, it all looks like product.
All right, so some things that irk me are when they like, I don't need to have a fave icon. This is a visual call out. Man, if you don't have a fave icon, make it a big yellow star. Just make it something. Make it a trust logo. Make it something. And I don't like it when they're hard to identify as a brand. Like this is so blurry. Like the best one. Um, Look at that. That is a fave icon. That's a great one. So you want to be more like Target and less like Navica, and definitely not be caught with your pants down and not even have one. It's another one, doesn't even have one. Macy's, more like Target, man. Perfect. This guy doesn't even have one. This one, not that good. Yeah, you know what's missing here is the blogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost all of these things have the product schema portion with the SERP result. So my history of sterling silver amethyst bracelets page doesn't look like it would do well.
All right, so end of the line without suppressing filters.
Don't push those.
You thinking what I'm thinking?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we suspect this is .it spam network. Let's see if it triggers safety warnings. Don't do this at home. Hopefully it's not pornographic. Yeah, it redirected to something else. Looks
And then it
sketchy.
failed.
And then it failed. Yeah, so it looks like the spam network. I definitely should not have done that. That could have been very X-rated. It also could have had malware payloads that would have ransomed my computer off. Um, but yeah, .it spam appears to be alive and well. Let's check that. John, how do you spell Mueller? And
That's the way.
uh, back, or let's do link building. That was one of them.
There we are. Yeah, I saw some. It's still alive. There's the .de,
Yeah.
and I see the
All right,
dot
let
on
me
above
let
that.
me take this off the air. Make sure it's not X-rated. All right, it's yeah, part of the same network. It went to the same redirect, different domain, same redirect as before.
Yeah, it failed at Mumpings.
So, and that was under a John Mueller keyword. So this network is it's in
No,
just about every keyword there is.
Yeah, that one was a .de as opposed to the .online that we looked at last time. .it is still around a little bit. .online, .br, Brazil is up.
All right, let's check ice cream cones, see if we can find the spam network.
This was a hard one. This is one of the ones that resisted. It's like there's a spammer moral compass that says, hey, we'll do a lot of things, but we're not going to do it to ice cream.
I was wondering if this keyword has different factors that the spam network may just not have that much of.
No, it kind of looks like the way their network works is just
Yeah.
purely scraping lots of, every keyword they can find. And so we managed to find it. This was one of the ones that we couldn't find it under when we were finding it under hundreds. Like we
Hmm.
spent hours one day just searching keywords to see all the one, if we could find one that didn't, an ice cream cone was one. And I'm not seeing it at the end here. So apparently it's not working here.
Yeah, not an ice cream cone.
Yeah, it's like
All
spammers don't want their kids to see this stuff.
right, let's try Donald Trump shoes. So that would be a target they'd probably want and they'd probably discover. Ooh.
That's an interesting one. The .org.
All right. Safety first. All right, that's a broken link, might be a hacked site.
Yeah, that one looks like it was hacked.
Sometimes they fool me because they rank better than we think they would.
Yeah, so you see the Google Books there, so we know that this is a possibility. A lot of times those things co-occur. But it's possible that,
Might be too new for their network.
yeah, or could be this is one of those protected keywords where they only allow certain domains in.
Well, now we're at the top.
Yeah, so make it John Mueller shoes. Watch.
Well, that one will obviously work. Let's do tested SEO training. Slashdot, that's a blast to the past.
Yeah. There's GitHub. SERPs. That IN is probably legit.
Got schema. This one looks interesting.
Yeah, see what's interesting about this is I can tell you that the for that particular keyword, there's no volume. There's only, my site ranks #1 just because it's the exact match domain for it, but there's not a whole lot else, out there. So this should have been easy to penetrate a little bit. But it doesn't look like it. If there's nothing down that far, it's not going to pop up this high up.
Unless it's a super easy keyword.
Yeah, but you'll still get, SEO training, SEO course type of keywords that would pull, those sort of spammy things. So basically what we're saying is that tested SEO training and ice cream. That's it's the pairing.
Yeah, it's harder to find the spam network now. So I guess that's some improvement. It went from every keyword for hours and hours to 50%.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at some questions. So that's our field observations. Not a lot new for right now. But you ought to be doing that. You ought to be poking around saying, what's new in the keywords I go to all the time. And I call those calibration keywords because I understand them the best. I've looked at them for years and years and years. So I know the ins and outs. And so when something new happens in those keywords, it stands out like a sore thumb to me. And so you should have your own calibration keywords and you ought to be checking them. You ought to be doing field observations and exploring what's new and different and how did page one shake up and what are those players doing different pre versus post shake up. And, it's important. All right. So, we have Jesus Leadership Training says, "Hi guys, appreciate your videos. Thank you for watching." Dan Hale says the button surely isn't back for all searches. So let's see. Chris Jagger says, question, Ted, I've heard you mention previously about never build a link that you can't control. Not necessarily. So point them to a property you control. So for tiered link building, so here's the thing. When you're going to do something that is arguably questionable link building, all right, there are some legitimate hazards. It's not risk-free. And so what we recommend when you get into that spectrum of link building is that you treat it very, very cautiously. And so my approach, and Clint Butler and others would say I'm too paranoid and you don't need to worry that far. And he's probably right. I go to a length probably more than I should. But I will keep throwaway domains that I don't care about. It's a $2 domain. I don't renew it. When it expires, I buy another $2 domain. That's how I treat them. And what I'll do is I'll get them ranking as a one-page website for some no competition keyword. And then when I get a new source of backlinks, let's say I get Charles's link network, I will get a large blast of Charles's link network to my throwaway page that's currently ranking. Now, one of two things is likely to happen after this test. Either one, I shoot to the moon for my keyword after I get all those backlinks, or my page completely vanishes from search. All right. If it shoots to the moon and it holds up over time, then I'm relatively confident that Charles's link network is not toxic. So if I use it cautiously, carefully, and judiciously, then I will probably be okay with it after conducting those tests. Now, if the site vanishes, it doesn't mean that it's useless and does no work and I need to undo everything. No. That throwaway domain now becomes tiered link building. It becomes a tier 2, 3, or 4 and an overall tier. And I sculpt the content to be relevant for what I want to link that page to. And even though that page doesn't rank, it still passes authority through the link graph. And we've proven that many times through testing over the years. You can see sites like SEO Intel, formerly SIA. There's Kyle's research. There's many groups have tested uh, uh, penalized and de-indexed websites. Can they still boost pages? And the answer is yes, they can. So that page that got vanished from the indexes because of Charles's link network now is a tiered intermediate page passing contextual relevance and link authority. Even though it doesn't rank, it can still boost a page for a keyword. So now anything sketchy, I run through that tier. And so that's the thing we want to do. And what I said in the past is never make a mess you can't clean up. And so if for some reason manual review or something down the road where they're like, this is a mess and we won't even consider you until you undo it all, fine. I just redirect that tiered domain, that $2 throwaway domain, redirect it to the UN World Food Program and call it good. Mess cleaned up. So that's what I recommend there. Thoughts on that, Lee?
No, same thing. Same thing. If you have an intermediate property of some sort where you can just log in and change the link or redirect it someplace else, then all the stuff that comes in behind it, if it does damage, you have the ability to undo it. So,
and when you tank a test domain, then you go get a new $2 domain and reprime it for testing. And so you keep your pool of testable domains on hand. And when you nuke them, they become part of your tiered strategy. And that way you're never wasting a backlink. Magical, isn't it? There's no more bad links. There are links that are money site safe, and there are links that need to be run through tiers. But all links do good work. Imagine that. All links do good work. All right. Let's see. Paul says, I could listen to Ted's wisdom all day long. Thank you. Oftentimes I get people criticizing that they hate the sound of my voice and they can't stand listening to me. So getting a good one feels good. Thank you for that. Hi, do you have a promo code for Magic PR? One exists, but I haven't put it on the slide, or I lost the slide I put it on. It might be SEO Fight Club. If it's not, reach out to Madge. I'm sure he'd cut you a discount. H4, who would have thought? Yeah, pays to test, right? So, yeah. So if there's MC4, then are you now of the position that there's an over-optimization penalty? No, it's not over-optimization. In fact, it's kind of the opposite of that. It's an over-optimization. It's a path to over-optimization allowance. It's how you do over-optimization and get away with it. So if you diversify, you get full credit for your over optimizations. If you don't diversify, you get diminishing credit as you over optimize until you get no credit. But does that mean you detune your pages and disavow your links and do link removal requests and prune your content and prune your pages? No. Those are the last things you try, not the first things you try. First thing you try is diversify your ranking signals, see if you can get unstuck and get full credit for your aggressive optimizations. That's what I'd do first.
In general, I'd recommend thinking in terms, less in terms of penalties and more in terms of filters. I've heard Google use this term specifically over many, many years, how they'll have a filter for this or a filter for that. So think of it for filters in terms of filters for ranking factors, filters for sites. You're not being penalized, you're just being filtered out. It feels like a penalty. I understand people are like, well, what's the difference? It feels like a penalty. But to Ted's point, once you fix the imbalance, the filter goes away, and it goes away almost instantaneously, or at least the next time the Google crawls your site.
Yeah, and here's how I distinguish between penalty and, filter or algorithmic demotion. Filtering and algorithmic demotion is primarily dependent upon behaviors you've done or are currently doing. And if you change those behaviors, you reverse the effect. That is not a penalty. That is a negative consequence to a behavior you can change at any time. All right. A penalty is Google did a manual action and you are not coming back until Google lifts the penalty. So these are different things. If you can reverse it by changing your behavior, I don't view that as a penalty. What do you think on that, Lee?
We saw that with addicting games. The fact that they, got rid of the vast majority of their keywords and they plummeted in the SERPs. Was that a penalty? No, that was just a consequence of, taking a high value ranking signal and detuning it. And that's a lot of times what we see when people think that they have received some sort of over optimization penalty, is they will detune and make it worse.
And over optimized is, man, is it ever a loaded topic? Because let me tell you about it. I get an earful about it every day as an SEO tool provider. People will come to me and they'll say, Ted, Surfer and Pop and all these other tools say that my page is over optimized, and your tool comes in saying, no, add a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Who's right? That's the question, the $1 million question, who's right? And what I would have you consider is that there is a correct answer to that question. And most of the time, it's going to be whoever saw the page as closely to the page that Googlebot saw. And so a lot of these tools, they don't see through Googlebot's eyes. And if you don't see through Googlebot's eyes, you're not seeing what they saw. You're not measuring what they saw. And so there are certain characteristics that Googlebot has, like one of which is they have a 9,000 pixel tall viewport. All right, that's a big, skinny, tall viewport because they want to trigger a certain amount of lazy load content. So if these SEO tools don't have a 9,000 pixel tall viewport, they won't trigger the same amount of dynamic lazy load content. The HTML they saw is different than the HTML that Googlebot saw. All right. Googlebot is waiting till 4 seconds after document ready to capture the DOM. JavaScript can change a lot of the content in 4 seconds. So if these tools don't wait the 4 seconds before rendering the page, or if they don't render the page at all, if they use curl or something, they're going to miss out on those changes. And again, the HTML that Googlebot saw might be different than what the tool saw. Another difference is which browser did it, because Some browsers will render the page with one set of order of operations, and another browser will render the page with a different order of operations. For example, you can redirect with JavaScript. You can redirect with a meta refresh. What happens when you have both on the page redirecting to different places? The order of operations that's coded in the browser will have one of those execute before the other. And a different browser might do it a different way. And the result of that is you would get different headings and different titles and different content. And so you could have one tool using one set of headings and another tool using another based on that browser order of operations. Another thing is Google is using the same set of random numbers on every page view. So one of the fingerprints that Googlebot has is that they roll the same random numbers. So if you look at the first 5 random numbers Googlebot rolls on your page, that's a fingerprint of a Googlebot. Is that sequence of random numbers will always be the same. And they're trying to do that to minimize the false alarms on change detection. So if they roll the same random numbers, they get the same random content, they can see nothing has changed. Now, these SEO tools, if they're not using Googlebot's random numbers, that's another way the HTML is different. And so it starts to come down to, well, how much of these tools invested in seeing through Googlebot's eyes? And I can tell you that I have invested years of researching Googlebot and how Googlebot sees a page. And so when people say, Ted, all these tools say I'm over optimized, and your tool's saying to add more, I think the answer is whoever saw the page closest to what Googlebot saw. And those differences are staggering when you measure.
Mhm.
All right. Let's see. Sony just laid off 900 PlayStation engineers. Maybe games is a bad niche. Well, that's really sad. Like, I hate the layoff culture of corporations. And I always hated it when I was in corporations, when management would say you need to give 2 of your developers a bonus, 2 of them get no bonus and fire one. It's like, well, they all did great work. Like, earnings are up because we're a good team. And that's how corporations are. Their fiduciary duty mandates that they do things that improve the share price of the corporation. And I personally hate that about corporate culture. It's dehumanizing. And what it made me do is want to get out of corporate culture, because there is no loyalty. Like, you can say, you can trick yourself that you're being loyal to the company, but is the company loyal to you? And the demonstration is how they teach their or how they treat their lowest rungs on the ladder. And there's this thing about quiet quitting. Like, people, a lot of people get outraged by quiet quitting. When people, and quiet quitting is code for you do what's mandated by your contract. If it's a 9 to 5, you show up at 9, you do good work, you leave at 5. But you don't do extra time. You don't work for free. You don't go above and beyond. You do what's expected. That's essentially quiet quitting. And people get all up in arms about it, but really it's a product of the leadership of the company. So what ends up happening in these corporations is they constantly hire from the outside. Management position opens up, you got experienced people on the team, they hire from outside. And so these people realize that working hard and going above and beyond the call of duty bears no fruit. And to climb the ladder, they need to go outside. Because what does the company tell them? Hey, whenever there's a ladder spot open, we hire from the outside. And then these people realize that the quickest way to climb the corporate ladder is to keep job hopping every 2 years. So, yeah, 900 people laid off. I bet they quiet quit on their next corporate job. And how cool would it be to have your corporate employer say, you know what? We don't hire from outside first. We look for an internal candidate first and put the mandate on internal candidates above external candidates. Like you never hear about that. So yeah, it's part of the corporate culture. Um, how can you rank see more results about side banner and games? Is that a feature that we missed?
Not that I'm not understanding that question. See that results over there, and that go up the box on the right.
Oh, this one? Yeah. So those are like related searches, I guess.
Yeah, it's a disambiguation attempt on Google's.
Yeah.
Isn't that a function of the knowledge panel?
Well, I think if you go back and you look at it just looks like
Yeah.
you're talking about, this type of game or that type of game. That's, Google asking you, to disambiguate when you say games, to kind of narrow the search a little bit.
Yeah. So that's a meta blending feature. All right. Somebody says, I wish your wife well. Yeah, she's recovering. She's doing well. So thank you for that. PR for internal pages, you end up with 300 plus, 100% same anchors. Would you worry about it? If it's one and done, no, I wouldn't worry that much about it. When you want to worry about it is when you start doing 5, 6, 7 press releases. Then you need to vary it. Think about brand mentions and alternative but topically relevant keywords. So scale ruins everything. And don't think that it's one press release per page. That's not true. Usually by the time you've done 3 or 4 press releases, you're overpowering most people, and you often don't need to do it again until they all decay. Let's see. Thanks for the answer. I feel enlightened. You're welcome. And last question. On a marketplace website that sells cars, what would you do for generalized category pages, but you want localized results? Well, most car dealers are gonna want the local results primarily. I
Here,
could.
Ted, type use Toyota into the search.
Okay.
Bam. Okay. So when you come down this, if there's a map pack, so it doesn't look like, there it is. So it views it as a local search, even though, you didn't type Seattle or whatever else, it is still local, even though it can be blended. Like plumber will give you local plumbers. It'll also give you the Wikipedia plumbing page. So when you're looking at that, how are these guys doing it? And they're doing it by, and you see the Seattle in some of those titles up there of the stuff that's above. Used Toyota Corolla for sale in Seattle, Washington. CarMax used Toyotas for sale. Toyota of Seattle. You're seeing all of those. So it's automatically doing that. So I would focus on, the particular terms that you want, if you're doing used cars or whatever else, focus on those brand pages, and just run core reports on these terms and see what they're doing. Look at the sites themselves and see what they're doing.
Now, there are businesses that want to rank nationally and they also want to rank locally. And so, in those cases, I recommend that you proceed with caution, because you can trigger Google into thinking you're local only, and it could cost you your national exposure. So if you're really wanting to rank both local SEO and nationally for a keyword, I would run two websites on different domains. I'd have one for strongly focused local SEO and one for nationally tuned SEO. I wouldn't try to do them on the same website. And the reason being is you don't want to kill a revenue stream. But if you're only in Seattle, then these guys can play local and they're localized in regular search too. So if you're only Seattle, then it doesn't matter so much. But when you want to rank nationally across the whole country, like most SEO businesses, they might want to rank nationally for SEO services, and they might want to rank in their area locally for SEO services. And so in those cases, I would often want to do two websites. They can be branded the same, but with slightly different domains, and that often does the trick. All right. I think that's it on questions. So with that, we will call it a show. All right. So thank you, everyone. Just remember SEO spring training and SEO at the beach. And